Hi, I'm Jonathan Kaplan. I'm going to talk about my third movie, which was the first movie I made without Roger Corman. Instead, I got his brother, Gene. We're going to prison. The name of the movie is The SLAMS.
His name is Hook. And they swallowed his bait.
The second movie I made for Roger Corman was called The Student Teachers. We had a cast and crew screening, and his brother Gene attended the screening. About a third of the way through the screening, Gene left. I really didn't understand why. I thought maybe this is some sibling rivalry between him and his brother Roger. The next day, I was offered Gene's next picture, a prison drama to star Jim Brown. Apparently, Gene had seen enough of the black subplot of The Student Teachers to convince him that I could direct The SLAMS. The only condition of my employment was that I had to go and meet with Jim Brown. We had lunch, and I found him to be quite sweet, quite charming. My experience on the SLAMS was very different from my experience working with Roger because Gene was a much more hands-on guy. He had a formula. He'd made a couple of these blaxploitation pictures for MGM, and he brought his people with him. So I was quite surprised after the freedom of Roger as to how little I was consulted once we had finished production. He'd already sort of cast the movie once we started the movie and crewed the movie, but then he'd hired his editor, and basically I was not given a cut of the movie. It was shot all on location, mostly at the Lincoln Heights prison in downtown L.A. The production designer of the SLAMS was Jack Fisk, and he was married to Sissy Spacek. That's how I got to meet Sissy and Jack and become friends with them. Jim Brown's only conditions were that he have somebody bigger than him to fight. He didn't want it to look like he could just kick the shit out of whoever it was he was fighting. So we cast Ted Cassidy, who was Lurch, who was also a lovely man and as gentle as can be, of course, and really funny and really bright and really well read, and we had a lot of fun. This scene on the roof, it was definitely very hot, and it was mostly non-union extras being paid like $40 a day, and it got ugly. There were actual fights breaking out. Some people had actual shanks on them, knives on them, whatever, and it was a very unpleasant day of shooting. Basically, the way to deal with Jim, who I'd heard all kinds of scary stories about, was to keep him engaged in some sort of competition. Being a professional athlete, he was by nature competitive, and he was also quite a good chess player. So I arranged to have as many chess players as I knew and their friends come down and play chess with him, and that kept him happy the whole time. It was a very surreal scene, seeing Jim sitting in his dressing room, which was a cell, playing chess for hours as we set up.